front of these flags, though, the first thing I want to start out with is this simple thought. Freedom, endowed by our Creator, defined by our Constitution, but defended each and every day by the men and women who proudly wear the uniform of these United States. For any of you who are veterans, would you just raise your hand? Any veterans, service members, families? Let's give them all an appropriate applause, because we wouldn't be here with freedom if it weren't for them and generations before. And while we're at it, not only thanking those men and women who wear the uniform or have worn the uniform in their families, but to keep us safe as well back at home. Let's give a big round of applause for all of our men and women in law enforcement, be it the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, all the others who risk their lives each and every day to keep us safe. Thank you. They deserve our thanks each and every day, so thank you for doing that. Pass it on. It's great to be here in Walworth County. Some of you know this, others may not, but I grew up here. I grew up in Delavan. That's exactly right. I used to flip hamburgers at McDonald's down the way, and I was right. Hey, there's the Delavan group, right? That's pretty good all around. I said my first job was actually right on the county line between Walworth and Rock County. I washed dishes at the Countryside Restaurant. And then I moved up to the big times. I started flipping hamburgers at McDonald's right on Highway 50 there before all that stuff came further out along the way. And every year on Labor Day, we'd come here to the Walworth County Fairgrounds. I can still remember watching the Demolition Derby over there. And when I was a kid, my dad loved the Statler Brothers. We saw the Statler Brothers and Charlie Pride right in those grandstands. And there's plenty of great memories along the way. So it's great to be here with all of you. And it's one of those where going forward, we want to make sure that not only for the memories that I had and many of you had, but that for our children. I've got my son Alex with me here today. My other son's Matt's graduated, is actually going down, and he's helping Governor Pat McCrory in North Carolina try to take on the liberal onslaught down in that state. He's the digital director for his campaign. But Alex is here with me. He's the statewide chair of the College Republicans here in the state of Wisconsin. And I see a bunch of younger college Republicans along with us, thanks to all the CRs. There's a great group of college Republicans in this state. And when I think about being back here, it reminds me that for Matt and for Alex, for my nieces Isabella and Eva, and for all the other young people like them, that's really what these elections are all about. You just heard a moment ago from Ron Johnson. There couldn't be a more important race here in the state of Wisconsin than his race for the United States Senate. Because you see, in our state, it's not just about the president and the vice president. That's important as well. But you look at the race for the United States Senate, and it's about as clear as it gets. You've got Ron Johnson, a manufacturer who spent most of his life outside of the private sector, who understands about numbers and bottom lines and actually putting people to work again, who's done a phenomenal job, but who isn't a politician, versus Russ Feingold, who for 18 years served in the United States. And remember what we did to Russ Feingold 6 years ago? We fired him, right? We fired Senator Feingold. Why? Well, for a number of reasons, but the number one reason on that list that we need to do more to talk about is he was the deciding vote for Obamacare, and we said back then it didn't work, and today we know it works even less. It even works less. They call it the Affordable Care Act, but we've seen in this state the results of that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for small business owners. It doesn't work for farmers. It doesn't work for working families. What it works for are people like President Obama and other liberals in Washington who think it's a good idea, but it's not affordable in this state. And once and for all, we fired Russ Feingold 8 years ago. We don't need to send Senator Feingold back to the United States Senate. We need to send someone with Wisconsin values, not Washington values. And Wisconsin needs Ron Johnson in the United States Senate. You know, it's one of those where every vote's going to count. You know, I turn on the TV. I don't do it too often, thankfully, but I turn it on for Packers games and occasionally to watch shows here or there. And I got to tell you, it's overwhelming to me, the number of ads I see from Senator Feingold, from all the, for all his talk. Remember back in 1992 when he had that ad in front of his garage where he said all these promises, and one of which was he was going to get the majority of money for his races when he ran for the Senate from people here in Wisconsin. You know, he broke that promise in this election. That's part of the reason why he's got so many ads up. You know, all the liberals from out on the West Coast, the left coast, they're all out there helping him run those ads out there, even though it's directly opposed to what he said he was going to do. And they're trying to twist the facts out there. They're trying to make it pretend like Russ Feingold was never in the Senate. Well, he was there for 18 years. He had a chance to do something for the people of the state, and he failed. And he's done nothing for the last 6 years except get ready to come back and run again so he can hang out with his friends in Washington instead of serving the people of Wisconsin. I need your help. I appreciate the signs, and I appreciate putting up signs in your yard. I appreciate those who've donated to Ron's campaign. But I got to tell you, between now and a month from now, on November 8th, we need your help going out door to door, person to person, talk to people at church, talk to people at work. It's so important. You should even talk to your family and friends about why we need to go out and help Ron Johnson. If you think you can't make a difference, remember this. At least for Tonette and I, what we found out over the years is that we've never gone to a new restaurant for the first time based solely on an ad or a flyer. We go to a new restaurant for the first time, at least. An ad or a flyer might remind us about why it's important to go back there. But we've never gone to a restaurant for the first time just based on an ad or flyer. You know what's got us to go there? Was a family member, a friend, or a neighbor who said, hey, this is a nice restaurant. You ought to try it out. If you can influence your family and your friends about why it's important to go eat somewhere, how much more important is it to tell them who should be the United States Senator from the state of Wisconsin, something that will have a dynamic impact on not just your future, but the future of your children and your grandchildren and people all across this country. Are you all committed to go out and help Ron Johnson by talking to your friends and neighbors and coworkers? And then the other part we need your help on is particularly here in the state. You know, in these elections, there's a lot of national attention out there, but I want to particularly tell you how important it is to elect people to the state assembly and the state senate here in the state of Wisconsin. You see, before the November elections in 2010, Democrats controlled everything in this state. State assembly, the state senate, governor, lieutenant governor, all the state offices but one were controlled by Democrats. And remember how great things were back then? Back at the beginning of 2010, the unemployment rate was 9.2%. In the 4 years before we took office, the state lost 133,000 jobs. And worse yet, it wasn't just those people losing jobs, but a lot of people, just to keep others working, took pay cuts. So on top of lost jobs, there was lost opportunity. There were small businesses going out. There were all sorts of challenges in this state. And that's why when you elected me and Rebecca Clayfish and people like Robin Voss and Scott Fitzgerald and others to take control of state government, the assembly and the senate, as well as in the governor's office, we didn't wait. We started the very first day, called a special session, and started taking the power back from the big government special interest to put it back into your hands, the hands of the hardworking taxpayers. And I'm proud to tell you, since that time, we went from 9.2% unemployment down to 4.2% unemployment. We've seen the lowest unemployment we've had for the past 15 plus years. You can clap for that, sure. In fact, the last time we had unemployment that low was March of 2001, which may not seem that far back for some of us, but Matt and Alex, who are 21 and 22 today, the last time unemployment was that low, Matt and Alex were 5 and 6 years old. So that kind of puts it in perspective. And even better, it's not just that unemployment's low. We have more people employed in the state of Wisconsin than we've ever had before. Ever in our state's history. This year, we had an all-time high. Hit an all-time high because, you know, nationally, when the president talks about unemployment dipping down a little bit, one of the things they ignore is that part of the reason for that nationally is because the percentage of people going down is the lowest it's been since 1977. That means that a lot of people just given up. They've given up about entering the workforce. That's not the case here in Wisconsin. Our labor force participation rate, that's what an economist calls it. It's really just the percentage of people in the workforce is one of the highest in the country. We're consistently in the top 10. That means when unemployment goes down, that's because people are actually working in this state. And we want to make sure even more people are working in this state. Any of you who are small business owners know one of the biggest challenges we have going forward is not creating jobs. It's finding enough people to fill those jobs. People with the qualifications to fill those jobs. And so one of the things we put a focus on is how can we not only help train more people in our schools and our technical colleges and our worker training programs, but going forward, how can we make sure there's even more people in the workforce? And so we've made all sorts of changes to make it easier to create jobs and put people to work. We've lowered property taxes. They're lower today than they were 5 years ago. We've lowered income taxes. They're lower today than they were 5 years ago. We've reined in frivolous and out-of-control lawsuits. We've passed changes to make sure that we got rid of the out-of-control regulations and tried to do more to enforce common sense and not bureaucratic red tape. There's still more work to be done. But one of the big challenges we have is we need to have even more people into the workforce. To me, when I think about this Packers windbreaker I'm wearing, it makes me think of football. We've got too many people on the sidelines and not enough people in the game. So I'm proud to tell you one of the things we did, not I did, the legislature helped us out along the way. One of the things we have done in this state is say if you are an adult who is physically and mentally capable of working, if you're physically and mentally capable of working, particularly for those who don't have children in the home, you want assistance, things like food stamps from the state. You don't get them in this state anymore unless you're enrolled in our job training program and or working at least 80 hours a month. You're looking for work 5 days a week, and you're able to pass a drug test in the state of Wisconsin. Now, you can only imagine what the liberals in Madison said when we tried to do that. In fact, some of them are still fighting us on the drug testing in Washington as well under the Obama administration. But you can only imagine what they said. They said, Governor, you're making it harder to get government assistance. I said, no, I'm not. I love the people of this state so much. I know there are so many jobs out there. I know just last week we saw over 90,000 job openings listed on jobcenterwisconsin.com. We know there's work to be had. We're not making it harder to get government assistance. We're making it easier to get a job in the state of Wisconsin. Because you see, that's what it's all about. Here in the state, it's about Wisconsin getting back to work. It's about getting this state back to work. That's what we've done over the last 5 and a half years, and that's what we're going to continue to do going forward. Because for Matt and for Alex and for all your sons and daughters, your grandsons and your granddaughters, your nieces and your nephews, that's what the future of the state is all about. And that's why we need more members of the Assembly and the Senate to help us along that cause. Because you see, when I was growing up down here in Delavan, I went to Delavan Darien High School. I got to tell you, I don't ever remember anybody in my graduating class signing my yearbook saying, Scott, good luck becoming dependent on the government. All right? That's not the American way. That's not the American way. That's not the American dream. The American dream is that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your parents did for a living, no matter what their background was, no matter what your zip code, that if you work hard and with determination, you live in a country where there's an equal opportunity for everyone here, but the outcome should be up to each and every one of us. The other side thinks that the outcome should be determined by the government. We think the opportunity should be guaranteed, but the outcome is up to each and every one of us. That is the American dream. That is alive and well here in the state of Wisconsin. And with Republicans in charge of your state government, that's exactly what it's going to be going forward. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for your